All right, so today we're going to chat about forgiveness in context of mother wound, because it's really important, mother wound, father wound, but also on a generic level. So sometimes it may go towards mother wound, father wound, but whoever has done us harm, if you have that person in your life, be it someone in your family, someone from your past, a true friend, a past karmic maybe relationship, everything that we're going to chat about today is going to be relevant for you. But we were this is our month of the mother wound, and if you guys either signed up for any sort of a session to heal mother wound, father wound with me, or you maybe purchased the healing experience that I recently launched, you know that the last step is forgiveness. So I want to chat about this a little bit deeper about this today, because I feel that there's a popular belief, and I fear that more and more it's more and more popular, because I've been hearing this opinion online from psychiatrists, therapists, specialists, even some spiritual people, saying that forgiveness is not a must, that in order to heal you don't have to forgive, that it's nonsense. And there's a one very beautiful therapist that I actually love her, respect her, and adore her, Dr. Ramani. And she's an expert. I started watching her content years ago because she is an expert on narcissism, psychopathy, and sociopathy. And because I was going through something myself with someone in my life, I wanted to understand these topics a little bit better, and I'm personally interested in that. So before my awakening, psychology was sort of a way to go. So I do have a lot of respect for her and her knowledge. However, right now, you know my opinion on psychology. It is matrix-based, it is mind-based, and given how it all started, I don't have really a full confidence, but it's just my personal belief, and it's a complete, side note. It can be very helpful to certain people. But the reason I'm bringing this up is because she also mentioned, and as she was, talking about recovering specifically from narcissistic abuse, and relationships with sociopaths and psychopaths, that how about you don't forgive them, right? So today I want to give you 3 topics, 3 concepts, 3 things that I want you to remember, because I do and I don't agree with that. Don't being a stronger thing, but I will explain to you why in those 3 points exactly. So, first thing that I want you to remember, and if you guys watch me, you know that my area of expertise, something that I work with people, is soul connections, navigating soul connections. So whether that's discovering if someone is your twin soul or your karmic connection or your soulmate, aligning with that person, understanding the reason for that soul connection and for that soul contract. And I also work with people to decipher soul contracts and to close soul contracts. And I have a whole playlist on my YouTube. If you're interested in these topics, you can go ahead and watch that, about soul ties, and it does have a couple of videos on what soul contracts are and how do we close them. But just to bottom line this for you, in order to close a soul contract with someone, and I don't care what anyone says, this is my life's work, right? This is something I always say to you guys, whatever is your life's work and mission as a spiritual person, you will be receiving downloads about these things, right? So I don't care what anyone says. I know it's the truth. It's my truth. In order to close a soul contract, two elements have to happen. One element is understand that contract, because they always carry a lesson. So you have to learn this lesson. If you don't learn this lesson, it will continue to be present as a pattern in your life. And the second thing is forgiveness. And I don't care what anyone says. In order to close your soul contract with someone, and our parents, so our mother or father, are the most powerful soul contracts that we have in each lifetime that we live. In order to properly close that, there has to be an element of sincere forgiveness. So here's why I said to you guys that I agree and disagree with the opinion that you don't have to forgive. I will say this only once. You don't have to do absolutely squat, okay? That's the truth. We have free will in this life. You can go out there, you can have shallow relationships, you can have one-night stands, you can hurt people, you can hurt yourself, you can stay in your patterns. You don't have to do absolutely anything. You don't have to. It's the thing of life. It's the lesson of life. It's the core of life that we have free will. If we didn't, what kind of lesson would this life have been, right? You don't have to do anything. You don't have to watch my videos. You don't have to go for healing sessions. You don't have to do anything, right? You can stop doing whatever you're doing and move to the beach and spend the rest of your life having shallow life and shallow relationships and sipping a cold one at the beach, right? It's your choice. But your soul has the wisdom to understand that the only way to grow, to expand, to release ourselves from the loops of karma and rise to the higher level of consciousness is to actually do these things, right? So the question is, if you're standing in front of a choice, right? Do I really want to make an effort to embark on a journey of forgiveness towards someone? The question is, do you want to close that soul contract or not? Because if you want to close that soul contract, there has to be forgiveness. If you don't, you have to accept that you're gonna have to do another rodeo with this person, right? Sometimes it's the person, sometimes it's the pattern. I've explained this in that playlist that I've mentioned to you guys, so you can go ahead and watch that. But if you do have karma specifically with a person, and that's usually the case if there's a lot of abuse, so it's sort of a self-perpetuating, do you know what I mean? So if some karmic relationships, they're only on the level of a lesson. But when there's a lot of intensity, a lot of even, abuse, it usually means that there's also karma soul to soul on a personal level, on the level of a person. So in order to close that, usually the hard ones to forgive are those that usually you need to forgive to release this person. Because if not, you're gonna meet this person in another lifetime, for another rodeo, for another attempt to release, to forgive, to understand, right? So my universal truth, if you already are on the level of consciousness to listen to me and to understand these things, you might as well just give it a try. It's just me. Maybe it's just me. You might as well give it a try. But again, it's your choice. You can say, you know what, this lifetime, I'm not gonna do it. I don't feel like doing it. I'm just not going to forgive this person. I'm just going to focus on being okay and healing. And here's something that very important that I want to mention to you guys, because there are some cases that if I was to work with someone specifically and hear that on a session, there are some cases where I would actually say, you know what, okay. And here it comes down to, what is the level of consciousness of your soul? So on the continuum of lifetimes that we go through as a soul, where are you? Because if I have someone on session who came to me to work through a karmic relationship, whether that's a mother wound, father wound, or a past karmic, right? to really close that contract, and we're working through that relationship. And they go ahead and they say to me, you know what, I don't want to forgive this person. I'm not going to forgive this person. Let's just, right? And I know people like that. They really went through a lot of pain, a lot of abuse, and they don't have enough level of consciousness to comprehend certain things, right? So if I can see that it is not their lifetime to be the last lifetime, to be the lifetime of full healing, right? I'm not going to be insisting, because perhaps to them it's going to be enough to release that on the level of lesson. It's going to be enough to learn to let go of certain things, to surrender to the flow of life, and to manage the pain, right? So they can continue their life in a peaceful way. And if I see that that's enough, obviously I would explain everything that I'm explaining to you guys. I would explain this to them so they're conscious. But sorry, I got distracted by a drop down. But I would be okay with that. Now, I want to move to the two next points that I've mentioned that I need you to know and be conscious when we talk about that forgiveness. And this will go to people who are really on that lifetime, that this is it. This lifetime you awakened. Whether it's spiritual awareness or true spiritual awakening through Kundalini awakening as a channel. I mentioned the difference to you guys, and I've done a bunch of videos about this as well. But you're awakening to the truths of life, right? So you're understanding what is the meaning of life, why do we come here, what is the objective, that we have to heal, we have to strip the layers of our shadows, we have to stand in our authentic self, frequency of love, frequency of soul. And this is it, right? So if you have that understanding, it means that the level of your consciousness is reaching one of your last lifetimes, if not your last lifetime. So if I would have a session with one of my beautiful ladies, and especially ladies who are on a journey, on a divine love journey, and we'll talk about this in a moment, I would really want to convince you to give it a try and to really embark on this journey and to really understand that truly this, you don't have to forgive them. It's nonsense. It's nonsense. And it goes down to what I just said to you. You don't have to do anything. Yes, that's true. But if you really want to grow, yes, you have to. And the second point that I want to mention is healing. Because when we say that someone is on a journey of healing, it means that they are healing their armor, they're healing, they're doing shadow work, and they're healing all their energy points, right? And one of the very important energy points, and I always talk about this to you guys, is the heart. The heart is the bridge between the physical world and the spirit realm. The heart is what connects and allows us to raise above the physical experience and not just be here as, avatars and completely lost in the experience of life. Heart raises us to the level of the soul. So in order to raise your energy to the level of the soul, you have to have a completely healed heart. Ergo, you have to forgive, because in a healed heart, there's forgiveness, compassion, and conditional love, kindness. There is no space for resentment in your heart. It means that your heart is not healed. So if you still have a person in your life, I don't care what they did to you. I really don't, you guys. I've heard it all. I've been through it all. There's nothing that you could not forgive. And in a moment, I'll tell you why for in a timer. But as long as there's anyone in your life, mother, father, ex-partner, whoever that is, that you cannot find it in your heart to truly forgive them, not just say, yeah, okay, I forgive them, but truly forgive them, neutralize the emotion you have towards them, understand it fully, you don't have a healed heart. And if you don't have a healed heart, you're not completely healed. So if you come to me on session, if you ask for my advice and you say, I'm not going to forgive this person, I've decided I don't want to do this in this lifetime, it's perfectly fine, but please accept that you're not going to be able to heal. And you know how I always say to you guys that healing is a journey that has an end date, but sometimes in some lifetimes it takes a lifetime. To some people it takes a lifetime. And here's one of the reasons why. Because you can do a lot of inner work, you can do a lot of self-work, you can do a lot of improvement, a lot of growth, you can become a better person. But as long as there's someone you haven't forgiven for what they did to you, it is because you haven't healed your heart. And I want to mention here that it's specifically important for those people who call themselves healers or who are on a journey. You know, this channel is what it's about. I have a lot of ladies on a divine journey, a lot of ladies who went through awakening, even if it was from karmic catalyst, who know that their life's path and mission links somehow in some shape or form to becoming a healer to this world, right? So if you want to become a healer to this world, so your mission, your consciousness is ready to live a life where your mission is going to be beyond yourself. We talked about this yesterday as we started the conversations about your mission. So you carry that energy of a healer. In all seriousness, you guys, how can you call yourself a healer if you don't forgive someone? True healer, no matter what was done to you, understands two things. One is that everything that happened to us, we chose this through a soul contract, especially with our parents, mother, father. Very, very conscious, detailed, important contract that was meant to set us on a trajectory of that specific life. So if you don't fully comprehend that, how can you call yourself a healer? That we choose our parents in order to become who we are, to go for pain that's going to shape us, that's going to activate woundings from past lifetimes so we can finally heal. How can you call yourself a healer? So I do not accept that anyone could be a healer having resentment towards anyone in their heart. And second thing, that any healer, true healer, not a charlatan, but true healer, has to understand that we're all one. We're all one supreme consciousness. If you don't see yourself in other people, no matter who they are, no matter what they do, you may not want to, speak to them. I'm going to talk about this in a moment, but if you don't see yourself through that lens of compassion and kindness in other people, I've been where you are. We're one consciousness. We all come from one source. How can you call yourself a healer? I just don't get it, you guys, right? So to me, it's a very important thing. And I want to mention that difference briefly between I forgive you and I don't want to see you, because people confuse these things, right? And I can share a bit of my private story with you. You guys know that I don't like to do that. I don't want to bore you with my personal details and the story of my life. This is not the objective. It's not a blog, right? But I feel like it's going to be relevant. So I myself, I have healed my father wound, obviously, right? I have found it in my heart, despite of everything, to forgive my father, because everything that I just mentioned to you, because I understand. I taught myself to look at his soul as a soul that I had a soul contract, and he helped me to activate big time the father wound. So I've forgiven him, and occasionally when he pops into my mind, I think about the good moments, or I think about in a neutral way. I have no resentment. I really don't. However, he is not present in my life, and he will not be present in my life. And it was a conscious choice, because I know, as being who I am and being a healer as well, that it is not for him to change in this lifetime. It is past that threshold. It's too late to change. If miraculously he was to change and come into his senses, I would have no issue. But as long as he is not doing any kind of a growth and contemplation, self-reflection, there is no space for in my life naturally. Why would they be? Why would there be? If you know that someone is on a level of consciousness that literally all they're going to bring you is pain, One thing is to comprehend that, understand that, release that, forgive. And another thing is just, well, I love myself. I love myself, so I don't accept anything that brings me pain consciously. Pain, humiliation, abuse, I'm not going to accept that, right? So you have to separate these things, because, and I always say this to you guys in collective readings as well, when we talk about, because the soul contracts with our parents are the strongest karmic contracts, right? 90% of them are, it's very rare to have a soulmate. As a parent, they're usually very intense karmics. So it's a program that we need to remove, that we have to speak to our parents, that we have to have a relationship with our parents, which is not true. We don't have to. We don't, if we want to grow, we want to heal, we want to expand, we don't have to. Sometimes part of that karmic lesson is actually to stop, right? Some karmic contracts, you can close them without eliminating this person from your life. But some karmic contracts, it's actually part of the closure element, to eliminate, to find the strength within you to eliminate this person from your life, but with forgiveness and with love and with understanding, right? And that last thing that I want to mention to you, and that's very important, that third point, especially for those of you who are on a healing journey and you feel like you have the opportunity to hit that last lifetime, especially for my 20s, especially for my ladies on a 20s journey. Going back to the question, do I have to forgive anyone in life who has done me harm? No, you don't have to do anything. But my sister, if you want to get into union, yes, you do. Because in order to get into divine union with your divine counterpart, you have to stand in your divinity. You have to stand in the frequency of your authentic soul, in the frequency of love. All your energy points healed, connected to self, connected to your mission, right? Anchored in your divine feminine, especially the feminines, because the embodiment of the divine feminine is the heart, is the unconditional love, is the forgiveness, is the kindness, is the compassion. How could you stand in that energy if there is a person in your life that you have not forgiven? It's impossible. So as long as you're resisting and saying, I'm not gonna, I've heard actually people say that I've healed but I haven't forgiven. It's impossible. You guys, it's impossible. Again, do you have to forgive? No, you don't have to do squat. I'll repeat that. But it is impossible that you have healed from a connection but you haven't forgiven this person. Because true healing means complete release of the heart, release of the resentment, release of anger, release of grief. And once those things are released, you forgive. And I always say this to if you're one of those beautiful souls that you've been on private sessions with me with an objective to close a specific karmic contract, I will say this to you guys all the time. In the beginning, when someone is like in this mindset, I'm not going to be able to forgive, we don't focus on forgiveness. It's a last step, and I never focus on this forgiveness. Why? Because I truly believe that as you heal, whatever happened with this person, again, so it can be grief, it can be anger, maybe there was abuse, maybe there was betrayal, maybe there was abandonment, whatever that was, you're healing these emotions. When you're properly healing these emotions, when you're truly healing, tapping into them, releasing, forgiveness will just be a byproduct. Will just be a byproduct. People focus sometimes on the incorrect thing, and we talk about this a lot when we discuss, tapping into your journey and your mission. People focus on abundance, getting pentacles from your mission, getting certain external, gain. But the external environment is always a byproduct of your self-work. Always. And I say this to you guys all the time. So in reality, it's really same when it comes to forgiveness. When you really have someone that you hold a lot of grudge, again, we're talking about mother wound right now, but it can be father wound, it can be ex-partner. It's usually one of these three, for most part, that we hold on very strongly because there's a strong emotion attached to it. I promise you, if you embark on a journey of closing that contract with me or another good healer, right? It's going to be a byproduct. The forgiveness is going to be a byproduct. We're just going to get there naturally. If we're really going to go through every experience, every grievance, every emotion, every pain, to understand it, to comprehend it, we don't have to focus on that forgiveness. It will just happen. It will just naturally happen. All right, you guys, I hope this was helpful. Yeah, sorry, I got brain freeze. I hope this was helpful. I hope you now understand that if you are truly on that lifetime of a healer, someone who came here through whatever means to change the life of others, you cannot truly call yourself a healer if you hold a grudge towards anyone. And you know what, you guys, what I want to add in a concept of context, in a context of mother wound, especially when you are a woman. So a woman to woman, if you cannot forgive your mother, she is the one who has agreed to bring you to this life through her sacred portal. That is the biggest gift as a human being that you can receive. And it's the conditioning of our society that tells us that our mothers and our fathers owe us something. They don't owe us squat. They don't owe us squat. And if you chose someone who didn't give you anything, it's because your soul knew that that was exactly what you needed. And I find that many women misunderstand from spiritual perspective, because of the programming, the concept of motherhood. And 90% of mothers, they become, even the good ones, right? They become codependent from their children. They say nonsense like, oh, my daughter is my BFF. No, she's not your BFF. She's not supposed to be your BFF. You are the model of her energy, of feminine energy. Whether you're a boy or a girl, when you're born as a child, you don't have yet developed these energies within you. So you're not in that inner union, in the internal yin and yang. And the role of your mother and the father, who are grown-ups, so already risen to their masculine, fallen to their feminine, it's to teach you these energies, right? And it's something that is beautiful when it happens, but it doesn't have to, right? It's, again, it goes down to entitlement, expectations from our parents. But in reality, just like we are, they as well are sovereign souls, right? So the fact that she has granted you access through her portal to be able to have this life is enough of a gift. And I know it's hard to understand for some people. It comes with healing. It comes with a lot of release and a lot of self-work and many, many, many lifetimes, right? I always say this to you guys. It's the humility as well. The reason I say what I say is because I've been on this rodeo 700 times, and probably 5 lifetimes before I wouldn't be able to say it, and I wouldn't be able to do that, right? So I'm not saying it's easy, but I just want you to be aware and conscious. Aware and conscious. You can choose not to forgive, but ergo, you won't completely heal. I say you should really think twice. Should you be a healer? I mean, if you're struggling, if you have intention of forgiving, we're all work in process, right? Work in progress. But if you've decided in your heart, no, I'm not going to forgive this person ever, I would think twice before becoming a healer, because you're sharing your energy. We're sharing our energy with you guys every session, every time we expose ourselves, because it is our healing energy. So what healer does is allow you to adjust your frequency to ours. So if that frequency is still frictioned and distorted, what's the point, right? What's the point? All right, I'm going to stop rambling because I think it's been already half an hour. I love you so incredibly much. I hope you have an amazing day, and we will chat tomorrow.